The story is about a young monk named Minh, who lives in a small temple in a peaceful valley. Minh is eager to attain enlightenment and success in his spiritual practice. But he often lacks patience and struggles to maintain the necessary routines. Although he frequently plans to chant, meditate, and study, he often procrastinates and fails to follow through with anything long-term. Minh always tells himself he will start tomorrow. But that tomorrow never comes. One morning, the Buddha sat down with Minh for a conversation. Noticing the monk's frustration with his lack of discipline and difficulty in maintaining his practices, the Buddha smiled and said, "Minh, do you know the secret to achieving enlightenment and success in your spiritual practice?" Minh shook his head, curious. The Buddha continued, "Success doesn't come from grand actions, but from small habits practiced every day. To help you understand, let me tell you a story." The Buddha then shared the story of a farmer who planted a bamboo seed in his garden. The farmer cared for the seed daily, watering it and protecting it. However, for 3 years, there were no signs of growth. People mocked the farmer, telling him to give up. But the farmer persisted. In the 5th year, something miraculous happened. The bamboo sprouted and grew rapidly, reaching a height of 80 feet in just 6 weeks. The Buddha explained, the bamboo didn't grow quickly at first. It spent 3 years developing strong roots beneath the soil. Success in life is the same. Minh, the small habits you practice every day, though they may seem insignificant at first, will eventually build a solid foundation for your growth in the future. After hearing the story, Minh reflected deeply and realized that instead of waiting for dramatic changes, he needed to start focusing on small habits and persist with them. The Buddha shared more insights with him. You can begin with simple habits. Wake up early every day. Read, meditate, do acts of kindness, or simply practice gratitude. These small habits, if done consistently, will lead to significant changes in your life. Minh decided to change by starting with the smallest things. He began waking up earlier, dedicating time for meditation, and learning every day without procrastinating. Although it was difficult at first, Minh gradually noticed changes in his mind and actions. Years later, Minh became a respected spiritual teacher, admired for his perseverance and wisdom. When asked about the secret to his success, he always smiled and said, "Success doesn't come from grand achievements or special talents. It comes from the small habits we practice every day." With patience and consistency, Minh understood that it was these small habits, seemingly insignificant at first, that held the key to success, peace, and enlightenment. As Minh continued on his path, he became more disciplined, steadily cultivating each small habit the Buddha had shared with him. His meditation became deeper, his heart more compassionate, and his mind clearer. Over time, he grew not just in knowledge, but in wisdom and tranquility. His peers in the monastery began to notice the transformation and sought his guidance. One day, a young monk approached Minh and asked, "Master, how did you become so wise and peaceful? You always seem at ease, no matter what happens around you." Minh smiled softly and replied, "It wasn't magic or a sudden change. It was the accumulation of small, consistent actions every day, actions that seemed small and insignificant at first but, when practiced over time, became the foundation of my life." He continued, "The Buddha once taught me that success, enlightenment, and peace don't come from waiting for a big moment to change everything. They come from cultivating small habits, simple actions that we take each day. When we do this, the growth isn't always visible at first. But if we remain patient and consistent, we'll eventually see that we have built something strong and unshakable. Just like the bamboo that grew tall after years of preparing beneath the surface." The young monk listened intently, realizing that Minh's success was not the result of extraordinary talents or rare gifts, but the result of small, disciplined actions over time. The next day, he asked Minh for guidance on how to start his own journey. Minh gave him a few simple practices to begin with. Wake up earlier. Meditate each morning. Read and study the Buddha's teachings. And be kind to those around him. Most importantly, he told him, start with one small habit and stick with it. Don't wait for the perfect moment to begin. the best time is now. As the seasons passed, Minh continued to share his wisdom with others, always emphasizing that success and peace are not just about the big, dramatic moments in life. Rather, it's the quiet, steady practice of small habits that bring true transformation. In the end, Minh became not only a wise teacher but a living example of the Buddha's teachings. His life was a testament to the power of small, consistent efforts, and when others asked him about his journey, he would simply say, "Success doesn't come from grand gestures or big accomplishments. It comes from the small things, the everyday actions that shape who we are and where we are going." If you want to transform your life, begin with one small step. Each small step you take will build the foundation for the greatness that will follow. Minh had learned that it wasn't about waiting for a miracle. It was about taking action, one small step at a time. And with each step, he grew closer to the peace and enlightenment he had always sought. As the years passed, Minh's reputation as a wise and compassionate teacher spread far beyond the monastery. People came from distant villages and towns to seek his guidance, eager to learn the secrets of his peace and wisdom. They all sought something grand, a quick fix or a shortcut to happiness and success. But Minh, ever humble, would always share the same lesson with them. True change does not come from a single grand gesture. It is the sum of many small actions, repeated day after day, that bring us closer to who we are meant to be. It is the small, deliberate steps we take that build the path to greatness. One afternoon, a young man from a distant land arrived at the monastery. Looking weary and burdened, he approached Minh with hope in his eyes and asked, "Master, how can I find peace? My life is full of chaos, and I feel lost. I've tried everything, gone after wealth, power, and knowledge, but nothing has brought me peace." Minh looked at him kindly and said, quote, "Peace is not something you can find by chasing after it. It is something that comes when you stop searching outside and begin to cultivate it within. Just as you would plant a seed in fertile soil and care for it patiently, you must tend to the garden of your own heart with small, daily practices." The young man looked skeptical. Quote, "But how can small actions make a difference when I have so many things to fix in my life?" Minh smiled and led him outside to the garden. There, he pointed to a small, delicate tree growing by the path. "Look at this tree," he said. "Do you see how it has grown tall and strong? It didn't grow overnight. It started as a seed, a tiny, insignificant thing, but with consistent care, watering, and sunlight every day, it became what it is now. Just like that tree, your peace and happiness will grow from small actions. You must have patience and trust in the process." The young man stared at the tree, finally beginning to understand. Quote, "So, you're saying that I don't need to do something grand or extraordinary? I can begin with small, everyday actions?" "Exactly," Minh replied. "Start with one thing. Perhaps it is waking up a little earlier each day to meditate or taking a moment to reflect on something you are grateful for. These small habits will build upon each other, and over time, you will see the transformation. Do not be discouraged if the change is slow. It is the consistency that matters." With a newfound sense of hope, the young man decided to follow Minh's advice. He began each day with a simple morning meditation, even if it was only for a few minutes. He started writing down one thing he was grateful for each night. And he made it a habit to smile at the people he met throughout the day, no matter how he was feeling. Slowly but surely, he noticed a shift in himself. His mind became calmer, his heart lighter, and his interactions with others more positive. As the months went by, the young man continued his daily practices, and the peace he had longed for began to take root. He returned to Minh one day, now with a sense of serenity in his eyes, and said, "Master, I understand now. It is not the big moments that transform us. It is the small, consistent actions that shape who we are." Minh nodded, his eyes gleaming with wisdom. "Yes, you have learned the most important lesson of all. Success, peace, and happiness are not found in grand gestures, but in the small, consistent actions we take each day. Keep walking this path, and you will find that you have built the life you always sought." Years later, the young man returned to the monastery as a wise teacher, sharing the same lesson Minh had taught him. And so, the cycle continued, small actions, small steps, one day at a time, building a legacy of peace, wisdom, and fulfillment for generations to come. In the end, Min's life became a living testament to the power of small habits. He had transformed not just his own life, but the lives of countless others, all by focusing on the small, daily actions that lead to true greatness. And as he sat quietly in meditation, he reflected on his own journey. The secret to a fulfilled life is not in waiting for the big moments. It is in the quiet, steady habits that we build each day. This is how we grow, how we succeed, and how we find peace. And with that, Min smiled, knowing that the greatest lessons were often the simplest ones.